we have a keynote speaker to start the day. I'm actually super thrilled about our keynote speakers. We've been so lucky to have them. And today we have Dale Cousins, who has been in a library their entire life here in Aotearoa. So I'm really thrilled that Dale's here to bring that long experience of being a librarian to everyone who's listening today, and also everyone who's listening later in the future, which will probably be thousands of people on YouTube. We just remember that when I'm rambling. But after gaining her library degree, Dale worked in public libraries in both Ahitereiria, Australia, and Aotearoa, New Zealand. And Dale is a weaver, which is an absolutely beautiful craft, or toi Māori, an art which has deep tradition in Māori culture. And so if you get a chance to talk to Dale about weaving, or you're interested in weaving, feel free to do so. I'm sure she'd love to talk to you about that afterwards too. But it folds nicely into the talk today, which is about ngā upoko tukutuku, which tukutuku is a kind of weaving, and those words have been chosen to describe the work that Dale's sharing with us today. But Dale's currently a senior advisor for Mātauranga Māori, for Māori knowledge at the National Library Te Puna Mātauranga of New Zealand. And so Dale's a member of the governance group for ngā upoko tukutuku, and is here to share her knowledge, her mātauranga, with us today. So thank you so much, Dale. Come on up. It should just work.
Morena. The first challenge is getting your presentation up. Yay! Yoo-hoo. Okay, I can go home happy now. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, nau mai, haere mai koutou ki tēnei hui. Kia koutou ngā maunga, ngā awa, ngā waka, e hui hui mai nei tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko wai au, ko Dale Cousins ahau, he uri ahau o te maungati tōhia ko Taranaki e tū mai nei. He kaimahi ahau o te puna mātauranga o Aotearoa me te rua mahara o te kāwanatanga. So, welcome to all of you, wherever you come from, however you got here. And my whakapapa, my genealogy connects me to Taranaki on my father's side, on the west coast of the North Island. I work at, we've just been through a functional redesign, and I now work for both Archives New Zealand and the National Library of New Zealand. I am a member of the governance group for ngā Upoko Tukutuku, and I'm delighted to be able to share with you a little bit of the history of this work, why we do what we do, and also just have a little sneak peek at what we are hoping to do in the future. The title of this talk is Hua kina te whare ki te ao, opening the house to the world. Librarians are great recyclers, and so I need to give a massive shout out to Raywin Paiwai and Ariana Tikal in particular, who I have built this presentation on their presentations in other forums. And it's really important for me that the word is opening, not opened, not open, opening, the act of continuing to open, because it never ends making things accessible to people. Metadata underpins pretty much everything on the internet and is at the heart of information systems. Sorting, storing, filing, finding are all more efficient with good metadata. But is metadata the same for everyone? What you call something, how you search for it, where you expect it to be in a storage system is greatly influenced by your worldview. What do you think was the search term that brought this gem to light from the Alexander Turnbull Library photographic collection? Horse, maybe? Blacksmithing? Stables? Farm equipment? Repairs? Wheels? Rural business? No. Shoes. This is either exactly what you were expecting or totally not. And I expect for most of us, totally not. So what happens if your view of the world is incredibly different from the view of those who set up a metadata structure that you are relying on? Imagine yourself as a library user in Aotearoa roughly 20 years ago, when without knowing it, you would be relying entirely on unfamiliar, sometimes misleading, possibly demeaning Library of Congress subject headings to find things. You try and search for a very, very simple concept in Te Ao Māori, waka. And you find pretty much nothing, certainly not in subject access. Depending on where you are searching, you would need to use the term canoes and canoeing. Depending on the catalogue, not even keyword searching would be useful. But as you can see here, the concept of a waka in Māoridom is incredibly nuanced. All different kinds of waka are used for all different purposes, built in different ways, and very, very different. Our taonga, our treasures, reference through terms like Māori, New Zealand people, in brackets, antiquities. Tikanga, our cultural protocols, could only be described through very broad terms such as Māori, New Zealand people, social life and customs. Until a few years ago, the Library of Congress subject headings did not use macrons. That's now changed, thanks to some fabulous work by some very staunch cataloguers. Pūrākau, our stories, and whakapapa, our genealogies, could only be represented as Māori, New Zealand people, folklore, poi and haka. And for those of you not from New Zealand, probably your haka references the All Blacks pre-game ritual, were categorised as forms of folk dancing. If you've been anywhere near a haka, you will know that folk dancing is really not the best way to describe it. So what changed? A lot of hard work by a lot of amazing people. Foundational work included the research projects Te Ara Tika, Māori and Libraries, and Te Ara Tika Guiding Voices, Māori Opinion on Libraries and Information Needs. These led to the iwi hapu names list and what I'm talking about today, Ngā Upoko Tukutuku. Originally also known as Māori subject headings, now known as Māori metadata. The original project was supported jointly by Te Rōpū Whakahau, Māori Information Workers Association, Lianza, our professional association here in Aotearoa, and the National Library of New Zealand. This tripartite support is still in place in the form of the governance group representing all three partners, and I represent the National Library on that group. The work began in 1998 with the creation of the Māori Subject Headings Working Party, and the resulting thesaurus work was launched in 2005. It was developed through the dedicated work of many people, including the late Rangiiria Headley and Robin East, who recently passed, Kanuiti Aroha Kia Korua. Also, as part of the original team, we acknowledge Whina Tiwhiu, Anne Anderson, Judy Keats, Anne Rewiti, recently retired from Wellington City Libraries, and over time the many committed people who have supported and participated in the continued growth of Ngāi Puke Tukutuku. I also want to acknowledge those who pushed for the establishment of Te Rōpū Whakahau as a separate entity, and who then persisted and pushed for this work to be done. We also mihi to all of those who have worked and are working to reclaim not just our reo, but our tikanga and our mātauranga as well, our protocols, our traditions, and our knowledge systems. Foundations and context are important. There are many Indigenous data models considered in the development of the thesaurus. The challenge, and it proved to be quite a challenge, was to find a framework that incorporated Te Ao Māori, the Māori worldview, and the cataloguing worldview. The research confirmed to the team that whakapapa, or genealogy, was the common foundation for Māori, with its origin coming from a source, Io, the supreme being in some tribal traditions. To some, Io feels like a response to Christianity. However, Io occurs in a number of traditions throughout the Pacific, which suggests a more ancient tradition and led to us feeling comfortable having Io at the centre. The kōrero goes that Io extended their mana, or their power, into te kore, the nothingness, the realm of potential, to create te pō, a tangible universe of darkness, and from that te ao marama, the physical universe of light. When applied to Ngā Puke Tukutuku, we recognise both the traditional and contemporary dimensions of the world we live in. These are represented by te tinana, the physical world, te wairua, the spiritual world, te hinengaro, the mental or intellectual world. The kaupapa, the purpose that holds it all together, sits at the centre. So this moves away from straight lines, even though it's a triangle. Straight lines are very European. This model is circular, generative, regenerative, and allows subject access for all kinds of information resources relating to Māori through a mātauranga Māori lens. Mm-hmm. Oh. Nope, not happy. We went backwards, but not forwards. Trust me, there's more slides.
This is moral support. Here comes Chris.
Yeah. Wi-Fi doesn't like me. Ta-da! Yay!
How do we go back to full screen? Can you remember how to full screen it? Is it F11?
That one?
Yeah, maybe. No, maybe not. Not that one.
Definitely not.
What are we doing now? Let's just refresh that. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Yay! Right. Okay. Good. And we're back. So, our foundations are very much embedded in a Māori worldview. You might recognise the image on the left, even if the main words aren't familiar. A classic thesaurus structure. The term itself at the centre, broader, narrower, related terms mapped out. The cataloguing worldview. The image on the right is the Te Ao Māori view of the same framework. Wharenui, our meeting houses, are our libraries, our archives, our repositories of history and story, each piece a part of the knowledge infrastructure. Our stories are held in our carvings, our weaving, the structures themselves, and the tukutuku panels on the side, the decorative elements that hold knowledge as well. The cataloguing worldview allows the thesaurus to be integrated with content management systems nationally and internationally. I know it's incorporated into Koha. The same for individual records and terms. The Te Ao Māori view enhances findability for Te Reo Māori speakers and researchers, allowing them to use language, terms and knowledge structures that are natural to them. Importantly, it gives equal weight to reoa iwi terms to support regional dialects and differences in terminology. That's one of the key differences, I think, to many other systems that I've come across, equal weight. So if your dialect is from Chris's neck of the woods and you are from Kai Tahu instead of Ngai Tahu, you should be able to see that held in our thesaurus with equal weight. So, Ngā Puka Tukutuku is not a dictionary or a translation, but a uniquely Indigenous data model. It provides subject access to all kinds of information resources relating to Māori through a Mātauranga Māori lens rather than a Eurocentric lens. The thesaurus doesn't just provide access to traditional knowledge concepts, but to an expanding range of topics through a Te Ao Māori lens. This word cloud is from our request list a little while ago, but not that long ago. There are a lot of Te Reo words and concepts up there. There are also ones that our ancestors would not recognise. Greenhouse gases, trades training, electronic resources, interest rates, transgender identities. All of these have or will find a place within Ngā Puka Tukutuku. So who's doing this? Thesaurus terms are created by Te Whakakaukau, currently a small group of Māori language contributors from institutions around the country, with cataloguing support from two Pākehā European librarians based at National Library. We meet regularly for day-long hui currently online. Oversight is provided by the governance group, 3 individuals, as I've said, who represent each of the partner organisations and who also contribute to the hui when we can. Should just say that when we talk about creating new terms, we're not talking about creating new words. We are talking about adding terms to the thesaurus. Te whakakaukau does not create from scratch. We consult experts in their field, Google terms to ascertain their use, look to other resources such as dictionaries and websites in the area. While the group may seem small, each person brings a community based on personal experience and rich networks. Emails, texts and phone calls fly out to every corner of Te Ao Māori. Phoning a friend or an auntie or a cousin is a fantastic way to work, drawing on the deep collective wisdom of Indigenous communities. I'm going to demonstrate quickly what we consider when we develop a term. A little while ago now, we had a request for a te reo term for disabled. As well as considering terms we could find in Māori dictionaries and word lists, we checked resources from within the disabled community. Are there terms they themselves consistently use, not just terms used about them? In this way, the new term added to the thesaurus was this one, hauā. But we hold a watching brief on this as terminology within that community develops. The English scope note is also created with terms used by the community itself. Our scope notes are carefully crafted, particularly the English one. As I said before, we do not assume that anyone, I might not have said it before actually, we do not assume that anyone trying to use the thesaurus has any level of te reo. It is designed for people working with metadata who don't have those language skills. And so particularly our English scope notes are really, really important. We do not assume... What? Come on, you got this. Maybe you don't got this. Hour?
Don't touch those.
Oh, here we go.
He said touch them last time.
No, that's it.
I know.
Turned off.
Here we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Did you say you had a power plug I could use?
Yes.
Just in case that's...
Catherine.
Oh, yep.
There we go.
Okay. Right. Talking too slow. So our scope notes. We don't assume that anyone trying to use the thesaurus has any level of te reo. So as much work can go into a scope note as into the structure of the term itself. Scope notes are always checked when we add to or amend a term to make sure that they are still relevant and reflect any additional nuances. Some of the original ones are quite blunt and no longer helpful, so these get extra attention when we come across them. It's also important to note that the English scope note and the te reo Māori whakamārama are not the same. 2 descriptions reflecting 2 worldviews. The English used fors are also carefully considered to guide people to the correct term. While not relevant for this example, we also consider reoa iwi or equivalent terms in dialects. These could be an alternate spelling or a different word entirely, but where we find them, they are recorded and, as I said, given equal weight to the main term. Ngā Upoko Tukutuku looks both backwards and forwards. There's a growing focus on archival, multimedia and unpublished collections, as well as published materials encompassing a variety of descriptive practice. Te reo and kaupapa Māori publishing, so Māori content publishing, is growing, and the use of Te Ao Māori frameworks more generally is expanding. To further support this, we are no longer using the term subject headings, but referring to Māori metadata, a term that reinforces the adaptability of the terms and their application. Ngā puku tukutuku was applied first in libraries where that first point of need was, and subject headings is what libraries do. It was always designed to be expanded and extended into other descriptive practice. And so for us, that shift from subject headings to metadata reflects the intent, the original intent, for us to be relevant to any kind of descriptive practice. Our world is changing, but the whare structure endures. Dude, no. Maybe my laptop needs coffee. Okay. This is actually a whare at in Rotorua at a tertiary institution. This is laser cut MDF. And yet, it has all of the hallmarks of a traditional carved meeting house. The po that represents ancestors and history of the place. The carvings on the side are an extension of that. You can see the ridgepole starting at the top of the po, the rafters, all of those traditional structures. The door and the window are placed in a traditional way, but there's a lot about this that is not traditional. New terms, in that same way, our knowledge systems are evolving and growing. New terms are created and existing terms clarified or restructured, reflecting changes in usage, language and events. Terminology in Ngā Upoko Tukutuku reflects language that is used rather than demanding that people learn new or unfamiliar terminology. So, as with the example for disabled people, if the disabled community is using a term, that's what goes in the thesaurus. We make no judgment about what they call themselves. To show the complexity of this work and how many rabbit holes, and I put my hand up here to be one of the queens of the rabbit holes, we attempted to disappear down. Here are 3 quick examples. Oop, that one. In March 2023, we clarified the terms awha, severe weather, mainly rain, and mārangai, severe weather, mainly wind, sadly highly relevant in the context of Cyclone Gabriel that wrought an incredible amount of damage in the North Island. As you can imagine, this came with a lot of weather-related rabbit holes. If we were talking about cyclones and floods, what about drought, climate change, community resilience? New concepts emerge, as well as many concepts that are not themselves new, but have re-emerged in new contexts. Simple is not always simple. A seemingly straightforward request for a term for blanket led to amazingly complex discussions. we try to limit the scope of terms to fit the material that is being described and the resources in which the terms are grounded. It is very important to understand the context of the terms requested. It was easy to identify paraikite as an appropriate term for blankets. That took us like 2.5 seconds. But where does paraikite actually fit, and what are the ramifications? What is the context of the resource? Paraikite have many meanings. Obviously, bedding, shelter, also clothing. But what about a political statement? There are brutal histories in many Indigenous communities, including Māori, of blankets handed out infected with diseases like smallpox. Border controls. For many Māori, the pandemic brought back memories of the 1918 influenza pandemic. Requests for terms such as COVID-19, associated with COVID-19, generated many conversations around terms such as isolation and border controls. So a request for a term for iwi checkpoints raised a lot of questions. What are border controls from a Māori point of view? How do these represent community and sometimes police involvement, especially where historically there is little reason to trust the police? How do these contexts reflect Mātauranga Māori views like rāhui, restricting access, and aukate, to block? What is the concept the user wishes to find? There were many iwi checkpoints like this one through COVID, where iwi and hapu took on the role of policing who was going in and out across borders. Because of living memory of the 1918 influenza pandemic, stories handed down, urupa, graveyards where whānau knew there were people who had died as a result of the 1918 influenza. And so it was carried for them in living memory. And they took do not cross the borders very seriously. But what did that mean? Keeping people in, keeping people out, keeping people safe, or all of the above? From our discussions, a term emerged, aukate rori, so blocking the road, which was added to the thesaurus, but the kōrero continues, and other terms and rabbit holes may also emerge. So where are we heading? I kind of started with a waka. I'm kind of finishing with a waka. This image is of Whakaura, who is he's a teaching waka haurua constructed for the National Library's learning programs. He's a scaled-down version, 4 metres long, made from 3D printed recycled plastic and recycled wood from a demolished house. It's designed to be taken apart and constructed to learn building techniques and to start conversations about how we got here and where we're going. So, te paitata, the near horizon, the near future. We are looking for ongoing development of terms, upgrading our current thesaurus software, which has kind of happened, yay. The Tukua Marae-based training program, ongoing, we hope. It's an immersive cultural experience that covers Māori knowledge systems, te reo, and an introduction to the workings of Ngā Upoko Tukutuku That's been funded with some COVID recovery money up until now. So we are looking at how that carries on beyond this year. Te pai tāwhiti, the far horizon. Haukati, I'm almost there. Okay. The far horizon, te pai tāwhiti. We're looking to increase community contribution of already developed terms. So we have had a few contributions in that sense. Massey University was going through their dairy archive and came to us with a list of terms to describe the content of that archive for us to kind of QA a little bit and to then include into the thesaurus. So they did all the work, they did the research, and we did a light QA over the top of it, and those terms are now in the thesaurus, and we can see that as a working model for the future. Investigating ways of measuring usage. Ngā Upoko Tukutuku data sets go up onto the National Library's website and are free to the universe. So whenever we get questions about how much are your terms used, we're like, well, we know how many terms we have in our catalogue. After that, don't know. It's out there. If you download a record from the National Library's catalogue to include in your database, if it's relevant, it will have Ngā Upoko Tukutuku terms attached. As long as you don't strip them, it will end up in your catalogue wherever you are. So, tracking usage. Investigating some more robust software than what we're currently using that will also hold our decision-making documentation, which is currently in a spreadsheet. Loves me a good spreadsheet, but there's got to be a better way of doing it. So that's on our long-term list as well. Just like the construction of a waka, the creation of tukutuku panels, or the building of a whare, this is not a one-person job, and it takes continuous effort to keep opening up the doors of our whare. Community is important, not just in growing the thesaurus through focused work like te whakakaukau, but in a much broader context as well. Every request submitted, every question we receive, every visit to our hui, and you are welcome to visit our hui, every opportunity like this one to share the work we are doing. All of this contributes to the aim of Huakina Te Whare ki te ao, opening our house to the world. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.